Hello, Strategist here, and I'm going to be starting a new series where I'm going to be covering Pathfinder 2. Pathfinder 2 is of course the second edition of Pathfinder that was just initially released on August 1st. I have the core rulebook right here, and we are going to, over the course of this series, discuss the different chapters in details, as well as the changes they have made compared to Pathfinder 1. I'm going to attempt to keep all comparisons purely to Pathfinder 1, though anytime I have to discuss the core concepts of math and D20 systems, I may in fact have to go all the way back to D&D 3rd edition 3.5 or just D20 systems as a whole. For this first video, I'm only going to be discussing the ability scores and the ability score portion of character creation. Pathfinder 2nd edition has made quite a few changes to how they approach the mathematical system. A lot of their drives were clearly designed to promote role-playing. They've decided to go with a la carte mix and match, choose your poison type system of how you want to approach things. Unfortunately, a bunch of what I'm going to say is going to sound a bit dour or negative, purely because the way I approach things is off the dice, off the mathematical systems. I DM a ton, and I love broken characters. There's a difference between an OP character and an OP player. I want to make this clear. If you are a player and you pick a niche you want your character to do and you make them really good at that niche, but in exchange you're bad at most everything else, a rather broad, min set for one narrow max, I actually prefer my players to do that. And I would suggest probably works best if you as a player were to do this as well. It helps you define your character if the roles you're going off of, you already have good highs and good lows to deal with. With what they've done here, trying to allow you to roleplay anyone as anyone, from a pure role-playing standpoint, this is good. I do like the idea behind the system, but the math that they've done behind it makes everyone kind of roll the same, which as a player, I believe, makes it a tad harder to get a core defining trait of your character. Like, you need to know more, you would need to go into story, but you don't necessarily have anything in the game to back that up. And as a DM, I kind of also don't like this, because if a player who's set himself up to be, the world's best melee combatant has been having a few bad runs, maybe for the next campaign or the next session, I come up with a fight that would be, close quarters and melee, something designed to that player's strengths. That way they get a fight or two where, everyone else would think maybe it's going to take 7-8 more rounds, might be a pain, but you already know that your melee characters can get it handled in 2 or 3. It gives them a highlight. And again, if everyone's rolling the same numbers or about the same numbers, it makes that rather hard. So in character creation, most importantly about this is how they have decided to go around how you generate your stats. And this has caused a bit of a blandening, I'll call it. I'm trying to get all the way down. I'm not covering actions or activities or anything, at least not for this video. You still have your 6 core ability scores. You have Strength, Dex, Con, Int, Wisdom, and Charisma. Same 6, nothing has really changed there. But then you have how you create your characters. Now, they do still have the ability to roll. If you want to do 46, drop the lowest, they still have that. But then afterwards, they still tack on their system. And you kind of need to for their map to work, because they've grossly changed how the races affect things. If I were to boil this down using their words, under old Pathfinder systems, a race would generally add +2 to 2 or more stats, and take 2 from 1 or more stats. They've classified these as boosts and flaws. If you get 1 boost, it is +2 to a stat. If you get 1 flaw, it is -2 to 1 stat. There are 4 steps in character creation, at least as it applies to your attributes. They are Ancestry, Background, Class, and Determine scores, which you can just think of as free points. In each of these, you get a varying amount of boosts and or flaws. And this is a key thing to keep track of. Within each individual step, you cannot put more than 1 boost to an individual stat. Ancestry can still give you 2 or more boosts, but you cannot have 2 or more boosts to strength within the Ancestry step. What this means is everyone can only have a maximum of 18, and generally everyone can only have a minimum of about 8. If you want to add variety, you can use the rolling system where you then still have to apply boosts, you just get far less of them. But all this is going to do is lowering your stats. You're never going to be able to get higher stats. You cannot use a boost, and it points it out right here where my cursor is, you cannot at any stage of this use a boost to be above 18. And under the normal system, you weren't going to be able to do that anyways. Later on, when you're at level 5, 10, 15, and 20, you will be able to apply boosts to a stat that is already 18, but at that point, a boost only adds 1 to a stat, not 2 anymore. Before I break down how this applies to individual races, just an even spread of what this means, Determine scores, those free things, allows you to get 4 boosts. Ancestry will basically allow you to get 3 boosts. Background will let you get 2, and Class will let you get 1 boost to the key attribute that that class uses. For example, wizards use Intelligence. If you were to boil this down, assuming you're trying to get at least the most amount of high numbers, you may want to go varied, but the highest you could do would be, of your 6 stats, only 4 of them would be 12 or higher. Only 3 of them would be 14 or higher. Only 2 of them would be 16 or higher, and only 1 stat can be an 18. By their rules, you're not going to end up with a broad spread in high numbers. If you use the dice rolling system, it is possible to end up with more numbers that are higher. This is possible, but you still can't go above 18. If you roll a 17 and apply a boost, it's only allowed to go to 18. If you've rolled an 18 in a stat, it still is only able to be an 18. And because their choice-based system, each ability score starting at 10, you've only increased the chances that you end up with lower numbers as well. If you want the good old-fashioned broad range, then yes, do go ahead and choose to roll your stats. But their alternative system still has you applying boosts. So you're not even necessarily going to end up with the old range you were used to. Everything is going to be between 3 and 18 under the dice rolling, or 8 to 18 under their default point allocation system. To make this very clear, Ancestry is their new term for races. Dwarves do not naturally add 2 to Constitution. They get a boost that is determined for them has to go to Constitution, which means a dwarf will only ever end up at character creation, if you're maxing it, with a con of 18. This is what I was referencing earlier when I was talking about how they've muddied everything down and made it samey. In older Pathfinder systems, and older than that, D20 based systems, different races had different spreads of stats. A human was defined as being somewhere between 3 and 18, with an average at around 10. The average of 3d6 is 10.5. If you look at the ability modifiers, that's why 10 to 11 have always given you a 0. That is average for a human. And everything's done off the human scale. Dwarves, however, used to add 2 to Constitution regardless of what you rolled. So if you got an 18, your dwarf could add 2 to it and end up with a 20. The dwarven spread was 5 to 20 because they were hardier. Now, races add extra hit points at character creation. They don't get extra con. They do not get extra int. They just get boosts chosen for them. Everything else being equal at this stage in it, what this means is all the races are basically the same as it applies to ability points. Their defining features would be whatever the race gets as an ability through a new heritage system and a heritage feat system, because the feat system has been completely overhauled. I'm not covering that in this video. Those will be addressed in each and every race's individual video. But back to the ability scores. There is a variant, there is another variant on character creation, which I kind of have to suggest nobody use. If I can figure out what page it was on, I must have passed it the wrong way. The variant is that while most races, other than human, get 2 boosts chosen for them and a boost that they get to choose on their own, they get a flaw that is chosen for them. Humans only get 2 boosts, but they get to choose what those 2 boosts are. And they don't get a flaw. There is a variant listed somewhere on the left, and why it's not showing it to me is kind of annoying me, I'm not going to lie. Oh, here we go. The voluntary flaws. What you can do as a variant is willingly get 2 flaws of your choice. You choose the ability scores, you can get 1 more boost. This is a variant rule that doesn't make sense. If you as a DM allow this rule, what you've done is, in terms of ability scores only, you've made every race count as human, and you've made humans count as better than human. If you're a player and your DM allows you to take this rule, do not take this rule. And it's a very simple breakdown to explain why this is just a bad rule to be taken. As I'm going to stop actually on the dwarves to point this out. Under normal conditions, the dwarves, and any race other than humans, get 3 whole boosts. 2 are chosen for them, and they get a free one that they get to choose whatever ability score they want. Humans only get 2 boosts, but they get to choose where both of those go. But for right now, we're going to address all the races. They normally have 3 boosts. You can't choose to stack a boost on top of a boost. And this voluntary flaw system, if I go back to it, I should have stayed on it, it tells you exactly when you get to apply it, and it's during the race creation thing. If you do, you can elect to take 2 additional ability flaws when applying the ability boosts and ability flaws from your ancestry. This is during the ancestry step. It's a really weird time to put that. This might have worked if it hadn't been during that step. Maybe during the class step. If you allow this during the class step, it makes more sense. But if we go to the race step, mathematically this doesn't work. You cannot choose to apply 2 boosts to the same ability score. If one of them is to Constitution, I can't choose that free one and devote it to Constitution in this step. So they have 3 boosts already and 1 flaw. In exchange for 2 flaws, they get 1 more boost. This adds up to 7 ability scores. Now, you can't stack flaws on top of each other, and you can't stack boosts on top of each other, but you can stack a flaw on a boost to nullify them out of existence, like matter and antimatter. So, we have an overlap somewhere. One of these flaws is going to overlap with one of those boosts. So what you end up with is every race other than human with 3 boosts and 2 flaws, because they nullified. If you look at the math, a human starts with 2 boosts for free and no flaws. In exchange for 2 flaws, they get 1 more boost. They end up with 3 boosts and 2 flaws. They end up with the exact same amount of boosts as they do flaws as every other race because of the overlap. If you were to do this during the background portion, where you already only get 2 boosts, then 2 flaws for 2 more boosts adds up to 6. This fits. If you do this during the class stage, if as a DM you do this during the class stage, you only get the 1 boost, but now you get 3 boosts and 2 flaws. They can work. But the rule specifically calls out that it has to happen during the Ancestry step, which means they can't overlap, so you're not going to be able... Everyone has the same amount of boosts as they do flaws. The reason why I say this means that everyone is a human, and humans are better than humans, is because everyone now has, regardless of race, 3 boosts and 2 flaws. However, every race, if you use a flaw to nullify out one of the chosen boosts, every race has 1 boost chosen for them and 2 boosts that they get to do for free. They have a flaw chosen for them and 2 flaws that they don't get to choose. Maybe that's nullified itself. The humans, however, in this full exchange, no matter what, have 3 boosts that they get to choose. This is better for customizing a character. And they get 2 free flaws, no matter what. Again, better for customizing a character. It's just in the human's favor. At levels 5, 10, 15, and 20, this is slightly made worse, but also better. Your ability breakdowns are made better, but the idea of there being different characters is made worse. If we go back to the initial breakdown where you ended up with an 18, a 16, a 14, a 12, a 10, and because of the flaw, assuming one of these, an 8. What happens is at level 5, 10, 15, and 20, you get to choose 4 ability scores that each increase by 2. Unless the ability score was already 18, in which case it can only increase by 1 to 19. If you do that, your ability modifier hasn't gone up. So really, you need to blow 10 levels worth of gains to get 1 ability score to 20. You may decide to do so, and that's fine. It's a good even spread. If you want to maximize 1 stat, that's a way to go. But as most players are just trying to shore up their weak numbers, what they're likely to keep doing is putting their points in the numbers below 18. This is going to be a common occurrence. The 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8 spectrum would get a +2 to the 16, 14, 12, and 10. So what you'd probably end up seeing is 18, 18, 16, 14, 12, 8. 18, 18, 16, 14, 12, 8, because the 8 wouldn't be touched, or the 8 gets touched and you don't have 2 18s. Something's going to be happening. At level 10, if they do this again, 18, 18, 18, 16, 14, 8. And then at level 15, 18, 18, 18, 18, you see where this is going. All they need is 1 dump stat. You might say, well, there is a variety of it. Maybe they would spend a few of these levels bringing that 8 up to an even number. I'm with you on that one. That would be something that it can happen. But how often do players choose a dump stat and then just dump the dump stat? That 8's going to be a dump stat that they're just never going to use, so they're not going to boost it. So what you're going to end up with at level 20 is they're going to have like 5 18s, and then, or at least by that point, once they start pulling them over, the 8 will start going up. But they're going to have 5 18s, and then that last stat's going to be markedly lower. This is what you're going to see by level 20. Not counting wish spells, items, so on and so forth, just core ability scores. This kind of mitigates the idea that everyone's a human, except for, again, no matter what your race is, everyone's ending up with 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18, 18 by level 20. Not counting items. Because what they've tried to do is simplify everything to reduce power creep. That is basically it for the ability score portion of this. The races do have other things they give you, which I will address in the race-specific videos. Backgrounds give you skill feats and other things. It's not just ability scores. And then, of course, your class gives you normal class features, but you only get the 1 core identifying ability score. So, if you are looking into Pathfinder 2nd Edition and you did not hear about it up to this point, this is something to be aware of from the beginning. This is the core math of ability character creation. which means this only affects everything so much more as we build everything upon this foundation. I'm going to be releasing more of these videos at a rapid pace. If you would like to catch them, I intend to release one about every day or every other day. If you'd like to catch them, why don't you go up there and click the subscribe button so you can be notified when every video is released, and I'll catch you guys next time.